I used to think the worst thing that could happen to a relationship was watching it fall apart slowly. The arguments, the distance, the feeling that you're talking but not being heard. I was wrong. The worst thing is when it ends without warning. When there's no final conversation, no explanation, just a sudden absence that never quite makes sense. That's what happened to her, and for a long time I told myself that was easier. If I didn't know why she left, then I didn't have to face the possibility that I was the reason. The night everything started again was completely ordinary. No storm, no power outage, no dramatic setup, just a quiet Tuesday that blended into every other week. I was half asleep on the couch when my phone vibrated. One notification. Voicemail. That alone was strange. Almost no one leaves voicemails anymore, and the people who know me know I never check them right away. I stared at the screen, debating whether to ignore it. And then I noticed there was no number listed, no contact name, no timestamp, just a voicemail. I should have deleted it. Instead, I pressed play. At first, I thought the file was broken. There was no greeting, no voice, just a low sound, like air moving through a narrow hallway. I waited, annoyed, ready to hang up, and then I heard breathing. Slow, controlled, the kind of breathing someone does when they're standing still, trying not to be noticed. My chest tightened and I pulled the phone away from my ear, but then I heard her voice. She said she didn't know if the message would reach me. I froze because I hadn't heard that voice in 5 years, not in person, not on the phone, not even clearly in dreams anymore. For a long time, I'd been afraid I would forget how it sounded, and now I wished I had. She said she didn't want to do this, but she was running out of time. I paused the message and the room suddenly felt smaller. I checked the voicemail details again, and there was still nothing. No date, no duration. I played it again. She said there were things I didn't understand and things she hadn't explained properly. Her voice was calm, too calm, like someone who had already accepted something irreversible. She said she should have told me where she was going, but she thought she'd come back. And instantly I remembered the last night we were together. Not a fight, not a breakup. Just two people pretending to watch a movie while avoiding something important. She asked me a question that night, asked if I would look for her if she disappeared, and I laughed because I didn't know how to answer. The voicemail continued, and she said she'd found a place, somewhere quiet. Behind her voice, I heard footsteps, slow and echoing, and my stomach dropped, because the sound was familiar. She said she didn't mean to stay, but it was difficult to leave something that didn't want to be empty, and I felt a chill because I knew exactly what she meant. There was a house at the edge of town, condemned, boarded up, a place everyone avoided. She used to say it felt patient, like it didn't mind waiting as long as someone eventually came back. I had laughed when she said that. Now her voice was quieter, and she said she thought the house knew me, or at least knew who I was to her. Then the message ended. No goodbye. No explanation. I sat there staring at my phone, knowing I was going to the house, even though every part of me said not to. The drive felt longer than it should have, the streets emptying out until it felt like the world had narrowed to just my headlights and the road ahead. The house appeared suddenly, one moment nothing, the next it was there, tall and dark and silent, and there was a light on in the second-floor window, steady and warm. I parked across the street and sat gripping the steering wheel, not wanting to go in, but not leaving either. The front door wasn't locked, which felt wrong for a condemned building, but it opened easily. Inside, the air smelled like dust and old paper, not rot, and the floor creaked under my weight just enough to let me know the house was aware of me. The light upstairs flickered once and steadied. As I climbed, I noticed things that didn't belong, a mug on the banister, cold to the touch, a stack of books on the floor with cracked spines like they'd been read recently. Someone had been living here. The second-floor hallway was narrow and the room at the end was open. She stood near the window looking out exactly the way she used to when she was thinking too much. She turned and said I came, Her voice normal, not hollow, just her. I couldn't speak. She said she hadn't been sure I would, but she hoped. I asked how long she'd been here, and she said she'd stopped counting. I told her people had searched for her, and she nodded, saying she knew, but this place didn't let time move properly. That's when I noticed the room itself felt wrong. Not broken, just unchanged. Dust hovering, but never settling. Shadows frozen like the house was holding its breath. She said she hadn't left because she didn't love me. She left because she was tired of waiting to be chosen, and that hurt more than I expected. I told her I didn't realize that's what I was doing, and she smiled sadly and said that was the problem. The lights flickered, the floor groaned, and she stepped closer, saying she couldn't stay much longer and couldn't leave unless I understood something. She said the place didn't trap people, it held unfinished things, and I thought about all the conversations we postponed, all the decisions we delayed, all the words we swallowed because they were inconvenient. She said she stayed because she thought I'd come back, and when I didn't, the house filled the silence. The walls creaked louder and the air grew heavy, and I realized the house wasn't angry, it was lonely. I asked what would happen if I left, and she said then she would stay here forever. I asked what would happen if I stayed, and she said then I would become part of it. The house shifted as if reacting. I thought about my life outside, the routines, the distractions, the way I'd learned to live with absence instead of confronting it, and I remembered the question she asked years ago about whether I would look for her. I took her hand, and for the first time since I arrived, the house went completely silent. I told her I never meant to leave her unfinished. The light dimmed, the room softened, and she smiled and said that was all she needed to hear. The house made a deep settling sound, like an exhale. And the next thing I remember, I was standing outside at dawn. The house was dark again, boarded up and condemned exactly the way it used to be. My phone buzzed with one final voicemail, short and clear, her voice thanking me for coming back and saying now she could go. The message deleted itself before I could replay it. It's been a long time since then. The house hasn't reappeared, but sometimes late at night when everything is quiet, I think about the places we leave parts of ourselves behind, and I wonder how many of them are still waiting.